Hi. Look at
How are
you.
y'all?
Kelleigh.
Hello.
Oh my gosh, you look amazing.
Great hat.
This is me covering up how dirty my hair is because I just actually worked out, something I've done very little of for the last 12 months. So
Are you serious? Like you're always like so good about your health.
No.
What's
How are you, Brooke? Sorry, Zach.
No.
I'm like hiding over here because I was telling Zach I've been up since 4 a.m. doing briefings for our spatial audio and lossless stuff. So I'm just like, you wouldn't want to see me.
I feel like I saw the Brian email come in at like 6 a.m. our time. And I was like, wow, they had a long night. Like if y'all are up working at 4 in the morning, that's,
It's lovely.
So, fun times.
Yeah. But so this is Kelleigh, Zach, Kelleigh. Have you met before?
We've never met. Have we met?
No, I don't know if we've met, but did you used to be managed by 888?
I used to work at 888.
Okay.
So I was never managed. Well, I was never managed by them, but I used to work.
Okay.
Did we ever see you at the office, or how'd you know that?
No, I just feel like your name was floating around somehow in that orbit. But my manager Bruce has now left that team.
I know why and how. I want to talk about this.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious about this.
Well, I mean, I really don't know if I know the scoop there. Do you, Zach? Are you fine with this audio?
This sounds okay. This sounds fine. Versus what audio? What are my options?
I mean, I could.
Oh, we've got the official Apple.
I mean, I can throw it. I just need. I can grab the audio off of here and drop it to you if that would make your life better.
Whatever's easiest. This actually sounds fine. If it's easy to set up the thing, whatever. If not,
I mean, it's here. It's literally just passing it off to you.
It also looks good.
Oh, the brand. The publicist likes it. She likes it. I was like, let me see if I can get the angle so that you don't see the. Is that better? Here, let me just throw it into record.
Let's do it.
I mean, if we have the option for good sounding audio, why wouldn't we?
Your studio is looking real good.
I'm going to just make sure it sounds cool-ish. It'll be a little roomy, but yeah, okay.
I'm going to go on mute.
Okay. Bye, Brooke.
Are we in? Are we going?
We're going.
I'm going on my end. Wait, so I was going to ask you because you were saying you had just worked out, and then I was just with a trainer this morning, and I'm also like not the workout guy, but I was with a trainer this morning who was telling me that he is like anti-workout clothing and he'll work out in like designer clothing or anything. And I was like, that is so boss. But you're saying you just worked out and you're like looking really good right now. But like, what's the look? What's the workout look?
No, the look, like, I'm like, that guy has the biggest dry cleaning bill in Davidson County.
I think
like, I can't imagine being that rich. That level of rich is like, these are disposable. So like, I wear it once, I throw it away. Like, that's a whole level of, I don't even know.
Message he's sending by doing that, right? It's kind of boss, but I think it's kind of on another level.
Yeah, that's wild. That's totally wild. Also, like, not everything breathes all that well.
I know. Well, this started because I was working out in pajamas, and he was like, and I was like, do you think that's a bad move? And he was like, no, I'll work out in designer clothing. I was like, my jaw was on the floor. I was like, what? That's what he said, though.
That's really funny. Was this the first workout or what?
No, I've worked. So this is a Skype trainer. This guy actually lives in London. I've been training with him on and off for years. And he's that guy. His name on Instagram, this is where the giveaway though is. His name on Instagram, and everybody can go follow him, is the Posh PT. You can follow him on Instagram. This is his thing. But this is not about him. This is about us.
This is fascinating. I want to know the Posh PT, except I feel like the Posh PT is like that person that's saying they're encouraging you to like be your best, most fit self, but they're judging the shit out of you secretly.
The Posh PT is judging you, but I think the Posh PT has got some issues of his own. I think he's got some insecurities going on in his own way, the Posh PT.
I mean, overcompensate much? I don't know, monsieur, but
there's something going on. But okay, so we have a couple of things in common here, which I've learned recently. First of all, our birthdays are like 4 days apart. You're on the 18th, right?
Yeah.
My birthday is Valentine's Day on the 14th.
So what's that been like?
Well, so this is what I was going to ask, because I think I've heard people ask you this question, like, is it hard to have a birthday close to Valentine's Day? But my birthday's on Valentine's Day. And to me, I'm into it, because if I'm single, the day's about me. I don't have to stress it. And if I'm not single, then it's still about me. And I think there's less pressure to go all out on Valentine's Day. Like, what's your vibe?
You can
here?
make it. Well, I like that, because then you can make it about you or the relationship. It doesn't have to be like, Valentine's Day can get so cheesy.
Very cheesy.
So, birthday is always cooler than Valentine's Day.
That's right.
That's a win.
Are you into like the Aquarius signs though? Or like when like people always say, oh, you're an Aquarius. And I'm like, not into this, but are you into this?
That's when I play along and I act like I know about it, but I'm like, I'm the last day of Aquarius. So apparently I'm like less Aquarius-y than other people. I don't know.
That's how
what does it mean?
I'm
Zach?
not so interested in. I don't know. I should know this because everyone always says, oh, you're an Aquarius. But I just don't, I'm not into it.
That doesn't sound like a compliment, does it?
Do you think so? Is it a little bit backhanded?
I don't know. I'm just like, oh, that doesn't sound like a complimentary
thing. Like, mind your own business. Like, don't tell me what.
Yeah.
Okay, wait.
Yeah.
And then the second thing, so your husband is a marriage counselor, which I've heard you talk about, but my mother was a she still is a marriage counselor.
Wait.
And I feel like my whole life she would be surprised if I said this, but I feel like I was sort of being like analyzed and worked my whole life a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's a little different relationship. But like, do you feel this a little bit also? Like, are you always like stop analyzing me, or like what's the situation?
I do because not everyone is as familiar with the therapy world as probably you and I, and even more so your mom and my spouse. He would intro himself as a therapist. And I just, like most people that we know, enter therapy around like a marital conflict. So I usually kind of am like, he like does, marital counseling, but he would actually say he specializes in narcissistic males.
In what? In what males?
Narcissistic males. Yeah.
That is his specialty, he will say?
Yes.
That is so interesting. Wait, so how does that work? Like, will he turn people away who aren't narcissistic enough?
No, but I think he does a lot of group work. And I think what he would say is, in order for, whether it's group work, group counseling, which maybe that's 8 people sitting in a circle together, meeting regularly, or whether it's a one-on-one, the person has to be kind of willing you need some friction. The person you can't get anywhere with in therapy is the person that's just like compliant and goes along. Like, you need someone who's going to either bring something to like push off of with the therapist or with other people. Just if there's no energy happening, you don't have anything to work with. And so, I mean, I'm sure there are his therapeutic style is probably different than a lot of what we assumed counselors were growing up. And, you growing up in the business, I would have probably, that would have come with its own set of like crazy insecurities for me. Is like my parents, like analyzing, I analyze my parents now because I've had way more therapy than they have. And I'm like, y'all are the problem. This is all your fault.
That's what I think. Like, sometimes I'll think like my mom was an amazing mother, and then sometimes I'll think, how are you a therapist? Because that one thing you did that one time was totally backwards. Where did that come from?
Yeah.
But you're saying he's into like if someone's more narcissistic, that is easier to take that energy. There's energy in the room that you can then take and move in another way. Where if someone's too passive or that I'm like kind of interested in this.
Well, or it's like, I think for him, he really is very focused on group work. I know this is deep in, but like those different characters, those different personality types, like you want things people are going to bump into, because like processing things in real time is very effective, rather than always talking about this other thing that happened outside of, like, when you can say, Zach, when you look, I'm making this up, when you don't make eye contact with me, it reminds me of not feeling pretty when I was a kid. When you can process what's happening in real time, you can like really make progress, I think.
Interesting.
I have no knowledge. I am the.
We'll do a follow up. We'll bring the husband on. We'll
truly
get
the armchair expert over here.
We'll bring the armchair expert on. So, I mean, first of all, this is like, it's a lot of pressure to interview an interviewee, right? Like someone who does this all the time, a lot of pressure here to, you know, do a good job.
You feel pressure?
Yeah, because you interview people all the time, and I do too, but there's always pressure when you interview someone who does a lot of interviewing, because I think they know what's on the other side, right? Do you know?
Oh, no.
This way? No.
I'm a little lamb who's lost in the wood. I'm going wherever you're going. You have more experience interviewing people than I do.
And first of all, you're tricky to research because you have so much content out there. Like you have the show, you have the podcast, you have all these interviews that you've done. Like there's a lot to go through to kind of figure out like, who is Kelleigh Bannen? Like, what do I want to talk about? There's a lot we can talk about here. But I'm curious, like, how do you prep for interviews? Like, because I think you do a great job with this. For example, your Alan Jackson interview that you did, you found this like show poster. What did you find from like one of his early showcases that you handed him? Like, how did you find this?
I'm about to get in like some serious trouble.
Wait, why?
Brooke, just don't pay attention. So, sometimes for super high profile interviews, because I am new at interviewing.
Yeah. Okay.
I will, of course, do my own prep, but I also will hire someone who is a much more experienced journalist to help me through. Like I go in with my list of songs that I know we need to talk about and what I think like the arc is. And then I because here's the thing, and as an artist, and I don't want to be like as an artist, but like as an artist, I think I feel almost more burden to not be a shitty experience for that person and to honor their music. And often like Alan doesn't give a lot of interviews. Like I don't want to be like, it was hard to get that interview, but I'm sure it was hard. I wasn't the person negotiating this, but I'm sure it was hard to land that interview with Alan.
There's a pressure.
And so, yes, like one, I'm going to hurt my relationship with UMG. I'm going to hurt my Apple's relationship with UMG without like, so I feel a great burden to be as prepared as I can. I think step one is always the music. Like if you don't know the music really well, and I'm probably a little neurotic because I'm perfectionist and I also have like all the imposter syndrome stuff is just like screaming, but you know, minimum, like I've got to go all the way through the music multiple times, especially for an essentials. But yeah, in that case, I turned to a really, really respected journalist in Nashville. And I said, would you help me like with some of this prep for Alan? And he found that newspaper ad, which was Alan had done a lot of showcases and been turned down, but this was the showcase that turned it all around, where Tim Dubois was there, and this was the showcase where he got signed.
That was just a cool thing, though.
Really cool.
Wait, and then where did you record this? Because was this like his garage? Because I feel like I've seen him do interviews in that scene or in that setting.
Well,
it looked like the coolest room ever.
It was so cool. He has just recently moved. So we were going to do the interview somewhere else on the property, but he had just set up his man cave garage, which has all these beautiful antique cars and boats and cool gear. And he was apparently like, he was really excited to have his setup like all moved in, and he really wanted to do it in there. It was a bit of my team was freaking out a little bit because what if I just say, I'm making this up, a 10-bay garage, a 13-bay garage. Yeah. Does that sound like a good place to do an interview to you?
Well, if it's Alan Jackson's garage, I would say yes. but
the sound was not what. Yeah,
the sound's not what we wanted it to be. And look, it's an iconic voice.
I mean, Alan Jackson. It was like you give Alan whatever he wants, and I mean, the engineering team was just like, oh no, this is going to be very echoey. Except the thing that was nuts. So Alan, he has so much presence in his voice, but he doesn't speak super loudly. So Alan was not echoing billowing through the garage, but I was.
It was Kelleigh Bannen that was echoing.
Because I'm like, well, Alan, what about this? And it's like, woo, woo, woo. And Alan is speaking much more like this. And there was just no tail on the end of his words to go, bounce around the garage.
Are you thinking, because sometimes I'll interview people who are a little more monotone, not that Alan's monotone, but he's chill. He's very chill. And I think that was a great interview, but do you get in your head, like, is this going well? Is this working out? Do you think he's having a good time? Or do you just power through that?
Well, actually, in that case, I felt like it was important to try. I'm obviously like all over the place, but I was trying to match his energy as much as I could. Because he's got amazing energy. He really does. It's just here, and it's really like a beautiful lake without any ripples on it. But it's very warm. Like, he was very warm. There are chill people that are cold, but then there are chill people that are warm.
He's like your grandfather. He might not be old enough to be a grandfather. Oh, can you hear me?
Siri is trying to interrupt us, and she just muted you. Yes.
We gotta get her out of here. He's kind of like a grandfather, like an old wise one. Like he's just very chill, very cool. I thought it was a great interview. So, okay, wait. So you've never done interviews like on your podcast, but how do you prep? Who preps you for these interviews? Or you just go in and you're like,
no, I mean, so essentials, I sometimes ask for backup because I just don't, it's especially the catalog with Alan. I mean, it was 21 or 22 albums. I wasn't even like listening to music during some, it's easier when it's like an Eric Church interview. I know that material just because of my story and what I'm into pretty well. That
was a great interview also. And I still can't believe that Keith Urban gave him like a pre-war Martin Dreadnought.
I was like crying. I was just like, here's the thing I want to know from you. There's sometimes people, especially like these artists that are that tier, when they're giving you something like that and you're just like, this is gold. Like, this is so good. It's like, don't get distracted. But like, also you're inside, you're just like, yes.
Let me tell you something, because I started working at a new label, and our head of promo, I was talking about how I have a hard time shaping the brims of my hats. And he sent me this, which is a hat Brim Shaper. Okay. This is like a $5 toy. Like, this is nothing. And this to me felt like a pre-war Martin. Like, I thought this was like the nicest thing ever, that this dude sent me this little piece of plastic. He got a pre-war Martin. That's unbelievable.
Can we just quick sidebar? If you were to show me how this apparatus works, does it go above or below?
It goes, I've got to take my headphones off. You put it like in, and then it comes with a rubber band, and you strap the hat. And there's a couple different, there's like three.
How do you want it fratty? Do you want it kind of fratty, or you want it respectable?
It's a great device. Everybody needs one of these. This is a hat shaper. I don't know what this is, but to me, that was like the equivalent of receiving a pre-war Martin. But the Eric Church interview was amazing. I thought Eric had such cool vibes on that interview. He was
honestly, it was crazy. That was one where I was like, I got to keep my shit together. This is a mate. Like, he was just bringing it. That's when it's like, here's the thing that I'm learning, but I'm too neurotic to really have like learned it here in my soul yet. You can do all the prep. You can know too much about the person to even like be cool. But like, they have to bring it. And if they bring it, it doesn't even matter. Like,
that's so true.
Yeah.
Do you prefer sometimes I like interviewing people that I've never met before. Like, we've never met. If I'm too friendly with someone, it's a different vibe. I feel like the interview doesn't go as well. Sometimes it does, but sometimes it doesn't. Like, do you prefer meeting people that you've never met before, or do you like doing it with your friends who you know super well?
I mean, friends, it is casual and relaxed, and I maybe know where I can go without, we do want to be newsworthy, right? But my job isn't, I'm not trying to like get something salacious out of someone. So actually the most stressful for me might be like when there is something kind of like, ooh, like out there that's just recently happened about them, but it's if I was just a straight journalist, like it would be my job to go after that question. But because my job is to give people a place to contextualize their music and their musical story, like that's not always like what's going on with their divorce or like a cheating scandal or like a DUI or something. So that's actually the hardest thing is like, oh, there's a question there. And maybe there's a meaningful musical question that is somewhere in that newsy thing, but knowing how to come at it in a way that's really respectful and still really about the music, not about like the newsy thing. That's actually when I get most stressed.
Because I feel like first and foremost, we are like members of the Nashville community. So I'm always like, because people are always like, can we cut that out? Would you not? And I'm like, yeah, like I'm here for you first. Like I want to make sure you're cool, care about that first, and then we'll worry, whatever. Like I never feel like I'm here to get anyone or whatever. Like I always want to avoid whatever those awkward things are. Right? It's like, do you prefer interviewing like legends or people who are coming up in their careers?
I mean, it's just so different. I get intimidated by like even the people that I've met or know, like I get intimidated by artists that I admire. I mean, it doesn't matter if I've shared a stage with them or just admired their music. It's like I get intimidated in that moment, mostly because I just want to do a really good job. It's more low key with like up and coming people, whether we know each other or not. I'm like, I guess here's maybe what it is. Like, I know the journey for most people to like right before success happens. But once success happens, I don't know how to relate to that. Like I have like nothing in my story. I'm like, 2 failed singles at country radio. That's just, if you can, I can take you that far. And then I'm out of my own experiential knowledge.
I don't know. I think that you can empathize though I think you can find like not all, because most reporters have never done what their people have done. I think you're figuring this out. Wait, so you have 2 shows on Apple Music, and I listen to both of them, but I always get the 2 titles confused because I'm a little dyslexic. So we have the Kelleigh Bannen Show and Today's Country. Today's Country is more long form interview, right? Or do I have this backwards?
That's exactly right. Yeah, okay. It's a meteor interview for sure. There's every week there is a cover star, and that cover star there's a chunk of an interview at least in that show.
And who programs the playlists on the Kelleigh Bannen Show? Can we talk about this? Is this like secret sauce?
Yeah, no, I mean, there are a lot of people that I like their taste, and we talk about whether it's like editorial priorities that Apple's really passionate about or radio priorities. But I mean, I have way more freedom than I would have probably ever even asked for. But I do try to program. I mean, I am listening myself. We're trying to do, the show, it needs to feel current. I want it to be hit heavy. And then I also want it to have like a cool factor or introduce people to, things that I think they will like and especially if it's in the right context or next to the right thing. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound gross about it, but I mean, I really get to determine that playlist.
I think you do a great job because I think on the last episode you had like Flatland Cavalry next to like Alan Jackson. Like you do a great job of like putting the hits with stuff that's new and on the rise and maybe you haven't heard about, and then doing like the current hits. Like you've got to put a lot of thought into this, right?
Well, I can't take credit for Flatland Cavalry because Cavalry.
Yes. Yes.
I remember Flatland, even like when I was
now I'm thinking too much about. Now I don't know. Flatland Cavalry.
I can't take credit for them, but because my friend Madison, who is she is like editorial for the countryside of Apple, and we went and saw them live. It was the first show I'd seen in 14 months, a couple weeks ago, and they played that new song, and she was already all bought in, and I had heard about them and but like I didn't know the music. So that really was like honestly a buddy being like, this is cool. And me being like, yeah, that is really cool. That's so fun.
Is that part of the fun part about this gig is like, are you always, well, I guess you were probably always looking for new music, but now you find new music and now you have like an outlet for it, or now you have a place where you can tell others about it, right?
The thing that I'm aware of more than anything now is how little I was listening to other people's music. When my entire world was making my own music, like you're driving home from a write, somebody's just sent you the demo from yesterday, or you're like listening to the work tape because you're about to go sing the demo. Like I was always listening to my own music, and now I'm listening so much to other people's music. That's been, I mean, I always was a music lover. I was always listening to stuff and trying to figure out, you know, what's next and what's, you know, happening, but not like this. It's very different. And it's cool. I mean, it's fun.
Do people reach out to you and say like, hey, I love that song, or like, thanks, like I discovered this song on your show and like, thanks for like, that's gotta be so cool, right?
That actually is the most meaningful thing, because I remember, I don't remember where I was, but there were multiple times. I'm going to give you two scenarios. So when I was on radio tour.
Yes.
I remember hearing, like, let's say I'm in the car with like one of my regionals and we were making radio visits and we're listening to this station. We're going to go visit, or we've just visited, and they play my single. And they're like, this is a brand new song from someone named Kelleigh Bannen. Do you like it? And then one time I was here in Nashville and WSIX was playing a song that we weren't even singling, like the label wasn't singling, but we sort of put it out as a digital single. And this was kind of before that was as common as it is now. This is like, let's say this is 2013, 14. And it was called Smoke When I Drink. And I heard it. I was like, oh my gosh, they're playing Smoke When I Drink. This is so cool. And the woman who back announced it said, or maybe she introed it. She might have introed it this way. She was like, this is a new artist. Her name is Kelleigh Bannen. This song is Miranda Lambert has a baby with Eric Church. And I was just like, yes, like maybe someone doesn't like it, but at least she used her 15 seconds of real estate to paint a picture, add some context. To me, I've never understood I'm spending my very valuable 3 minutes of radio real estate on this song, but I'm not even going to commit to it enough to tell you I like it and that's why I'm playing it.
Right.
I've never understood that. And so I think, to go all the way back to what you asked, the most meaningful thing that I can do on a daily basis is give someone 15 seconds, 10 seconds, 5 seconds of a reason to pay attention to a new artist and give them a second look, which I wish people had given me.
That makes all the difference, though. And that's part of why I love these Apple radio stations, is because you really feel like you're listening to something programmed. It's fun to have someone kind of take you along for the journey. And then like with a new artist, like you had Carter Faith on recently, and then you were able to tell her story and then going to the song. And when you hear her talk about that song or talk about why she covered Britney Spears, it makes the listening experience so much more fun, right? Or
you are so well researched.
I hired an entire team, 10 people to it's right.
You are very well researched.
It makes a big difference though.
Yeah, it does. And that one was fun. I mean, I think that's fun because I'm a fan of Carter. We're not buddies. I mean, I'd like to be buddies. I think she's rad. Her voice is so cool. And that was just fun because it was like, oh, I want to talk to you in this early stage of where you are, and people are just meeting you and falling in love with your voice. And what a cool, like, unvarnished place to be in the arc of an artist career.
It's a lot of pressure to be like a real tastemaker here. Like, people really listen to what you're doing. This is
I don't know that that's true. That's so complimentary. You're flattering me, but I think it's cool to be able to be in the mix, talking about music that we care about.
Absolutely. Okay, so I want to go back for a second. So you started out with this amazing artist career, and you had signed to Capitol early on. And what's the story here that I've heard where you got signed because you were like found doing something that was like 90 gigs in 90 days or something? Like, what?
Again,
is there
a better researched person out there?
No, there's lots of them. So what's the story here though? Because this is like like you were doing this thing, right? And someone found you off this, right?
So, okay, here's the story. So, my younger, I lost two siblings to addiction, one older, one younger. My younger brother, Grant, he passed away in 2008. And out of that time, I was just honestly trying to figure out like, how do I mark this anniversary? Like it was, so he passed in February of 08, and let's say it's like November of 08. And I was just starting to look at the calendar the next year and felt like the first year after anything traumatic or any significant loss is just full of landmines, little landmines in all over the calendar.
Everything is like another reminder of the thing that was that thing of that year. It's yes.
Yeah, whether it's anniversaries, the first with, the first, you know, all the first without. So somewhere that, you know, end of that year, November, early December, I was like, what if I did some sort of like a tour or play, you know? And then it just hit me like when people are entering recovery, they go to 90 meetings. That's sort of the first chunk of recovery because it's just so tenuous early on. They go to 90 meetings in 90 days. And so I was like, what if I could play 90 shows in 90 days in those first 3 months of the year, and it would cover the anniversary. And so I think it was like, you know, let's say it was January 1st to April 1st or whatever it was. And so out of that, so oddly, so that happened. And I mean, I played a Hooters.
Who books the shows? Are you booking all the shows?
I'm booking. I had no team.
This is Kelleigh Bannen going out and booking the Hooters.
Oh, it was so terrible. So I played Hooters. I played the Davidson County Drug Court, which is like people in their jumps. It's like jail.
Yeah.
I played, a bunch of random little places. I think the last show was at Exit In. The final show.
Oh, that's
was
a great show,
In.
actually. That's a big show.
And
hometown show.
Opening for Bo Bice. How about that throwback?
No way. Oh my God. That was the final show you said?
Uh-huh.
At
And
Exit
actually, yeah,
Oh
someone else might have been on the lineup that night. I can't remember. So all that to say, then the Tennessean kind of like heard about my story, and they did this, let's say it was like an Easter special on redemptive stories, and they put me on the front page of the paper.
No way.
And Paul Wylie,
legendary producer,
saw it, and then a friend who was kind of trying to help me, actually one of my friend's dads who was in the industry was trying to kind of help me, guide me, and he made the intro. And you know, Paul was also in recovery. I think maybe that part of the story connected to him. So I just went into his little office and played him some songs on my guitar, and he literally, Paul Wylie, he was like, oh my gosh, Zak, too. By the way, back then, like I didn't even know, I probably wasn't wearing mascara. Like I didn't even know. I mean, you have to, like, when you commit to doing this, I don't want to say this, you have to, but the bulk of women in this industry, you like have to learn how to be your own glam squad. You can't roll up like the dudes roll up to it's like, you really have to it's really been a painful experience getting good at doing your own makeup. But I roll into this meeting with Paul Wylie and I play him a couple songs, and he just was so sincere, and he is still just such a meaningful part of my story. But he said, okay, we're going to make a project together and you need to go write the songs. And they started helping me with setting up some co-writes. And I was writing with the people I was already writing with. I had a couple little, co-writes. I was very off the grid. And so I think it was really, and I wouldn't recommend this. I think there are other ways that you could go about it now, but rolling into, I mean, we did kind of those round robins of label pitches where you go in to the conference room.
Wait, what would you not recommend? Is this what you wouldn't recommend?
Here's what I wouldn't recommend. Like, I think at the time, I did not realize how important it is to be a part of the fabric of Music Row. And really what I mean is like publishers. So you want, like, at that time, I was really arrogant and naive. And I was like, I want to own my own publishing. And like, I'm doing this myself. Like, but like, you really need partners, because if you're going to be on country radio, it is already such an outside chance that, and it's even more outside that you're like this monolith over here by you need to be deeply embedded into the music making machine of Nashville. And I mean that actually with reverence. And I think that means you need publisher buy-in. But when I got signed, I mean, I'm sure people were like, who is this? We've literally never heard her name before. And I had a major label deal.
Do you need buy-in to get the best songs because the publisher is going to help with the radio single? Why do you need that buy-in?
Okay, I think you need buy-in because the most valuable currency for any career is the songs.
Right.
And whether you're writing them or you are cutting outside songs, those relationships. So it was sort of like major label deal. Now we got to backtrack and build a relationship with hit songwriters. And so I was kind of, doing this little thing over here, and it was cool. And I think it had value, but I think, I just really, at this point of my career, I would say, I think it is the publishers that make the world go round, because of how valuable the songs are. And then also having a publisher that's like helping guide and shape you or just a sounding board, as you're growing as a writer. I think that sounding board is so important.
Yeah. You kind of were like you went the equivalent of like analog TikTok viral with your 90. I mean, this was such a cool thing. And then I feel like there are all these kids today who are like blowing up on TikTok, and then they're getting signed so quickly before they even have maybe moved to Nashville, and they have no team members.
Or ever played a show.
Many of them have never played a show. So true. But like, do you have any advice for these people who are like early on, like they did something viral, it blew up, they got signed? I mean, it's a tough it's a tough position to be in, right?
I think this is like, I've probably like said this before, but this is my other, I don't think when you're on the front end of that stuff and you've got all these fancy people that are like signing you and telling you all the things that, you have a lot more power than you think, because you still have mystique, or you still have, you don't have any strikes against you. You have no failures. So instead, like, you overcoming the couple first missteps is really hard. And so I think what I would say is like, however you get in the room, like then use that moment to pile up that song catalog and pile up the currency that's going to get you to the next thing, whatever that is.
That's always what it comes down to. Like people always talk about like American Idol successes, and then they point to someone like Gabby Barrett. I'm always like, Gabby Barrett had two of the most incredible songs that she led with, that she's leading with right now. It always comes down to that. That's what makes or breaks everything. I respect Gabby so much. I think she is one of the finest vocalists maybe to ever be on American Idol. If I hope had not happened that way at that time, we wouldn't be talking about her. Right. 100%. She needed
that great of a song.
Which she wrote.
And like, yeah, I mean, some of that you can't even orchestrate, but you can't, but yeah, I think that's it. It's like the fame, the TikTok viralness, any of it from American, like that kind of visibility is just like the jet fuel that starts it, but it has to intersect with legitimate hits, or it's gone in a year and a half, 2 years.
Right.
I think.
When you performed on the Today Show, which I think was last year, right? Was this last
2019.
year? 2019. Okay, so we'll say last year.
It was last year.
It was a quarantine last year. When you perform on the Today Show, because I'm always curious about this, how do you, like, are you rehearsing for days with that band on that one song? Or like they say like the joke is like you rehearse a week, you show up and play for 10 people and you make $20, or you play for 10,000 people and you rehearse for like one day. Like there's a joke. Like what I haven't
heard that joke. That's so true. On that, what's true about that story? One, I sold my pickup truck to afford that.
Are you serious? And was this your
now
only pickup truck?
No, but it was a wonderful 1948 red Chevy pickup truck that is now on a Christmas tree farm somewhere in upstate New York.
No way.
Because being an independent artist is expensive.
Yeah.
You don't realize like it's not like you pay to get on the Today Show, but they bill back the record label a production cost.
Right.
And if you don't have a record label,
you're the record label.
Yeah. Yeah.
So wait,
so
you sell, yeah. I want to hear this. I want to hear this.
So there was that. And I mean, no credit, like, don't hear it as like a slight to them, but it was like, are we gonna, I mean, you want to get on the Today Show. And when my publicist called, it was like, well, shit, now how are you going to afford it? You know, like, she's worked so hard to get this opportunity.
What's expensive? The band members, flying everyone there.
Well, that's any show, you know, whether you're bus, you know, van or flights. So that's a cost, but you're going to incur that cost anywhere. It's more like there's sort of, I'm sure it's legitimate, but there is, you know, a production cost that they are fronting, that we don't have any control over, that is what gets billed back to you. So yes, and then also flights, and of course paying my guys their rate and paying for rehearsals and, you know, per diem and things like that. But so that band, we knew each other well. We've played a lot together. We had just come off a couple other shows, so it was like the song was super familiar. Of course, we had a handful of rehearsals specifically for that, because we were using a vocal producer who, there's just a lot of things about live TV that you can help set yourself up to be great.
Right.
And so we worked through some of that so that vocal producer like knew, so he could mix it live. Essentially, he knew where the moves were. So he was really familiar with that song and the record. But to be honest, that was maybe not the song I would have chosen, but it was the song that the Today Show chose. And it's like, it's hard. That's a hard song for me to sing. So I worked with there's a vocal coach here who is incredible. Her name's Kendra. And I worked with her specifically on a handful of notes that I didn't feel as confident about. It's one thing to do it in the room, and yes, they continue, but when no one's watching, you can hit all kinds of things. It's when the pressure's on that you know, like, things just it just gets crazy. And you're playing at like 4:30 in the morning.
Oh my God, yes.
So we spent the moment I found out that was happening, we met twice a week to work on the vocals for that song. So it was probably 4 to 6 weeks worth of vocal work.
Is this Kendra Scott? Is that the vocal?
Kendra, wait, hold on, let me look.
Might be someone else.
I think Kendra Campbell.
Kendra Campbell. I don't know Kendra Campbell.
Kendra Scott might be a jewelry designer.
Maybe, do I have this wrong? I could have sworn there's a vocal coach in Nashville named Kendra. Maybe not. I could be wrong. I don't know. Could be I might be totally confused. But does someone like, I've heard like one of the things is that you're supposed to play to the cameras, and it's tough because you play to the room, but you're supposed to play to the cameras, right? Did anyone tell you this? This is what I've heard.
So that's where, like, I actually probably needed even more experts than I had. Yeah, no, I mean, that was literally the first time I'd ever, other than like a music video or like
I thought it was a great
CMT
performance.
taping. I mean, actually, I've roasted Bruce Kalmick. It wasn't like the immediate feedback, but like, he was definitely like, oh, okay, well, there's some weird stuff with some of your like camera work, but you know, we want to have room to grow.
Room to grow. I actually thought it was a great performance. I thought the band sound killer, really well rehearsed. Everyone, because sometimes you see those performances, and to me they sound a little sloppy sometimes. But yours was really good, actually. Not actually, It was really good.
You want to know actually the most fun thing about that?
Yeah.
Was one. So I have a group of girlfriends that have come into my life. Like, I just turned 40, so I'm no spring chicken.
On February 18th.
On February 18th, I'm the oldest woman in country music. And
that is not true. That couldn't be further from
Jolly has me beat, but only by a little. And
I could name 5 who are, that is just ridiculous.
But my crew of girls are like, they love me aggressively. And as soon as we found out that I was playing the Today Show, they all booked flights. So you're right. There was no one in Studio A, but all of my best girlfriends
were
right there, losing their minds. They're crying. Like, they know how to, like, I'm not always like, I get embarrassed, or I don't always know how to stop in the moment and take in the moment, but this crew is like the queens of, oh, we're celebrating this. I mean, they go so hard on the celebration front. So they were just like, I mean, it was amazing. They were crying. Like, I finished and they're sobbing. It was so great.
And then what do you do after? Because at this point it's like 4:35 in the morning. You've got to pack up. Do you crash? Do you get breakfast in Times Square? Like, what do you do after?
So I think by the time we'd actually loaded out, it had been a minute. I maybe had one other, we had maybe one other morning press thing, like a little interview we knocked out. Then we all went to like an early lunch. And here is the, like, this is going to make me sound way fancier than I am, so don't be fooled. But I love like vintage and estate jewelry.
Yeah.
And so there was this company that I like follow their Instagram that has, and of course New York has like all the best, fanciest jewelry.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, hey, like, I definitely can't buy anything from you, but I'm going to be in town for a couple of days. Like, could I come look at some of your estate, your vintage jewelry? So me and my girl gang roll up to like look at diamonds that we cannot afford and just like try on some stuff so we did that, and then we went to lunch.
And we started this podcast talking about throwing out, one-time use designer clothing. So that's not even the fanciest thing that we've heard on this podcast. Yeah. Do we have any new music coming out, or what is happening? Is there anything we can talk about or should talk about? Like, what's happening?
Realistically, I would like to make a new record. I'd like to start that record the fall, end of the year. But I have to write the songs.
We have to write the song. What does Bruce say? Is Bruce like, come on, we need more music? Or
Bruce has been a mate. I mean, here was the thing. I at first was apprehensive. I was really in my head about what would it mean to move into this role with Apple. One, I had never had healthcare. Like, I really hadn't had healthcare in like 5 years. Since I left my label deal, I hadn't had healthcare. And so it was so appealing. Like, oh my gosh, like I could actually get paid. This is shocking. This is truly shocking. And have healthcare, I'm blown away. So it was, and I love I hope I don't sound just like I'm blowing smoke, but I love the people that I get to work with. The people that lured me in are so amazing. And, but I was really in my head about like, what would people think? You know how you think everybody's paying attention to you, and
nobody cares.
No one gives a
shit.
They
do care, but they don't care.
Yeah, they don't. But I was super in my head about what would people think? Would people think, oh, like she's finally giving up? So I had to kind of like stew and be over dramatic about that for about a month after we first started talking about this role, the full-time role. We had launched Today's Country, but I didn't know all the plans that Apple really had for the station, for Apple Music Country, or that they were looking essentially for an anchor and to build out from there. And so, but Bruce said, and I think this was really wise advice. He was like, look, you've worked for yourself since you graduated from college.
Yeah.
And it's going to take you a second to just get your bearings and figure out how to work for a corporation. So take your first year and just do that. And if you write, but don't put a ton of pressure on yourself. Just like get your bearings. There's all the time in the world. Like, that's actually a very cool perspective from a manager. Like,
yeah.
I thought that was really, and so we hit that year mark, and we just started kind of bulking up my calendar a little bit more, writing. And I don't know, I'm just kind of trusting that. The coolest thing that I will say is I have tried to force a lot of things in my life, and it's just never works. Right.
Yeah.
The tighter I'm holding on to it, I don't know if you've experienced this, Zach.
Do you feel like I'm a guitar player, and I feel like when you do like a great interview, you have a great conversation, it's almost like playing like a great like jazz solo or something. Like, do you feel this way? Like, do you get your artistic itch scratched by doing these interviews and talking to these people?
Yes, absolutely. So there's that part where I'm actually like feel very satisfied. Like, I feel challenged, inspired, and like really that part of it is so fun. I mean, getting to hear Eric Church talk about how they made Heart and Soul.
So cool.
I left honestly just like feeling like, how do I even like, can I be that creative? How can I approach my art with that kind of reverence and commitment and ingenuity? So I mean, you know, not every conversation is that conversation, but for the most part, it is a lot of satisfying conversations about music. People are cool. They want, and like talking about music is fun, but yeah. So that was a long way to say, I would like to make a project this year or start a project this year. But I got to write the songs.
Will there be any piano on this project? Because
yes.
didn't you buy a piano in quarantine and start like, so are you still working on this? Are you still trying to learn piano?
Okay, so I am both the oldest woman in country music and the shittiest I am the shittiest guitar player. And I was a trifecta and the shittiest piano player. Like I am the most novice piano player.
Really?
But I just felt like whatever I do next, I was like, I think it's going to happen on the piano. And it was just like fun to start. I mean, this is my best buddy right here.
What is that? Because I've seen that in all your videos. What is that guitar?
That is a 48 LG2 Gibson.
Classic. Incredible.
That guitar I got during 90 gigs in 90 days.
So this guitar has been with you through everything.
He really has.
I get this. I've got a guitar that's similar that I've been playing since.
Who's that?
I've got a Fender Telly. Here, I'll grab it. Literally right here. This is a Fender Custom Shop 67 Telly. And I've played this thing through high school gigs, through my music performance degree that I got at college. After college, I've done everything with this guitar.
It's, you know, there's something about like, I mean, there's the like, you can't make old friends. You can't make old relationships with instruments either. And it's, I mean,
I relate with you. So I bought a pedal steel a couple years ago, which is right behind me. And I wanted to learn how to play pedal steel. But I think like when I play guitar, there's a lot of pressure of like, I'm playing guitar since I was a little kid. I should be better. I'm in my head about it. But playing pedal steel is so artistically freeing to me because there's no, I'm supposed to suck. There's no pressure. Do you kind of feel this playing piano? Yes. Like, is it just no stress? Like, I'm supposed to be bad because I've only been playing for like a year. I can suck on it.
Yes, exactly that. And it's fun. And it's still all these things that you can discover. I mean, just the way that like different guitars or different tunings, like you're going to hear different things. And we get in our ruts and we have our things that we go to. But I think my hang up is I don't want to perform. Like, I feel so embarrassed of like the quality of my playing. Like, I'm not trying to like go perform in front of anyone, except I do have visions of like Christmas carols being sung around the piano. Like the next time we can actually have like a Christmas party. Like I want that, but I'm not trying to like, I don't want to play this piano. Like I'm not even trying, I don't want to be playing it. I just want to write on it and be able to find new melodies and things. And it's fun.
It's so fun, right? To learn a new instrument. Kelly, what have we left out here? We've really covered a lot here. What's been unsaid?
You're
what have we
masterful.
Left out? No, I don't know about that. But what's been unsaid here? We've learned a lot. I think we've learned that you really need the songs. If you're gonna, you need the songs. We've learned that sometimes you need to have others help you. Like you need to bring someone in to prep for an interview. You need your friends there when you're playing live on the Today Show.
You do.
To rely on others sometimes. It's okay. What else?
Are you just rattling that off? Did you take notes?
No,
what else can you teach me?
This is it. What has anyone given you any good interview tricks? Because I always like interview tricks. Like, have you thought about it?
What to teach me?
Here's a trick I learned. So I listen. Do you listen to a lot of interviews and go like, how are you such a good interview? Like I listen to interviews all the time. Like I'm obsessed with listening to interviews. And I listen to a lot of Stern, like everyone does. But Stern gave me this trick, which I think is really interesting, which is if you come to the end of an interview and you say like, well, that was great, we're done. Like that's the end of the interview. And then you keep going. Like he always wraps up and then he goes for another 30 minutes. And what he says is like the guest loosens up if they think the interview's over. And then he gets another version of the guest past that point. Does that make any sense?
Oh,
Like he'll be like, that was great. Thanks for coming on, Kelleigh. We're wrapping up. And then he'll like throw in another question, kind of like I'm doing right now. And then like the guest like loosens up because they think the interview's over. Yeah. And then they get much more real. That's a Stern trick. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I
have been reading kind of and rereading his latest book.
Yeah. Howard Stern Comes Again, or yes, which one? Yes. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I don't have a lot of those signatures that he has, or haven't figured them out for myself yet. The ability to ask the question without shame, that is the question that everyone wants to know, and approach it in a way that still, even if it feels a little, it still sort of feels cool. Because he's earnest. Yeah. I also think he does a really good job of just sort of quickly, like there's always like a, wow, you are a sight for sore eyes, Zach, that hat. Like he always does like the, you look fat here, actually I've been reading this book. There's this researcher, her name is Priya Parker, and she has a book called The Art of Gathering.
The Art of Gathering.
Yes. And I've been thinking about how I can hold space in my interviews like they are, her rules for gathering are very specific. And so I've been kind of thinking, I would love to think through, both for my shows, but also for an interview, like I am the host of this party. This is a gathering. And how do I make it that?
Yeah. Interesting. Have you ever read Tribes by Seth Godin?
No.
I think would talk about this, but he talks about how to lead a tribe and the importance of forming a tribe. I don't know if that relates to what you're saying, but I've never thought about it that way, but I think that's an interesting perspective.
That's cool.
I like this.
Tribes.
Okay, tell me your book again. The
Art of Gathering.
The Art of Gathering. Okay, I've got a little bit of homework.
It's probably a little bit of a stretch, but it made me realize that there are many kinds of gatherings.
Yeah.
And what happens if we take ownership over them as such?
Pro tips here.
I don't know. I'm in the experimental phase. I don't know.
Have you ever done The Artist's Way, by the way, Julia Cameron?
Yeah.
I feel like
it's been a long time.
I just feel like that's your vibe. I feel like you would have done this. Like, I'm very into this. I just did it maybe like 6 months ago. And now I'm like once you do it, you start hearing everyone talk about it, kind of, right?
So I get really hung up in the morning pages.
Me too. We're going overtime now, but we'll end with the morning pages. But what's your thing with, do you do these religiously, or what's your take?
No, I dread them. And then I judge them. I can't.
No, you can't judge them. That's the whole point of the morning. You can't judge them.
Judge them.
That's the whole point of the morning pages.
So.
I go into phases, but then whenever I do them, I always go, I can't stop doing these because they're so helpful. I get so many good ideas. I feel like I'm so much more motivated. It's so weird that these things work, but now I'm like not doing them, but I'm trying to get back into them. It's tricky.
I probably need to, I'm like, damn it. This is like the wink that's telling me I need to like go back to my morning pages.
Let's start doing the morning pages.
Okay.
We'll subliminally do them.
It's your fault.
We'll do them. Kelleigh, this has been so much fun.
You were amazing, Zach. Thank you so much.
Great guest, because you know what it's like when you kind of have a lame guest. Like great guest, so much fun.
Here's what I want to go out on.
Okay, yeah.
What is the highest number of yawns you've ever gotten out of a guest?
Okay, so I don't think I've ever had a guest yawn, but I have had guests like check their computers and their phones, or like kind of like do other things, or like pet their dog and be like way more into the dog than the conversation. And all that stuff is heartbreaking to me, because I put a lot of time into that, right? Like, does that, and then it kind of throws you off, and it's hard to get back into it. It's hard, right? Like, how many have you had? Have you had yawns?
I have a record number of 7 yawns.
7 yawns. Were you ticking?
Very famous. No, I just know because we had to video edit around the yawns.
That's bad. That's bad. That's bad. Don't yawn if you're on the
But phone. I mean, in theory, that probably was my fault. I don't know. Was that my fault? I don't know.
I don't.
Okay.
I get
No one
very
will
in
ever
my
know.
head. I get very in my head about this, and then I get very starstruck. I get more starstruck when I interview like big CEOs. Like I interviewed the CEO of $1 billion company on my podcast, and I got so starstruck, and he was so not having it, and I just lost my train of thought. And I was like, I couldn't come up with questions. I was like stumbling. It was
What?
it was the only like interview that I can point to. I was like, I couldn't air it. It was so bad. I actually did air it, and I edited around it, but it was like it was so rough, and it messes with you. It trips you out when the other person on the other end's not engaged. It's rough. It's rough. Anyway,
It is. It is. It's like a co-write.
it's like I've never been in a co-write, but I would imagine it's like a co-write.
Sometimes it's bad. It's just boring, or it's bad. There's no chemistry, or or you're in a bad mood, or they're in a bad mood. But
Yeah,
yeah.
100%. Where do you get your hats from? Hatworks?
This one is from H. Audrey, which is Holly Williams' store.
Of course. Yeah, yeah. Great hat.
Thanks. Again, just covering up the dirty hair, but
Fantastic. Kelleigh, this has been so much fun. Thanks for taking the time.
thank you.
And,
it was so fun.
Hope to see you around Nashville.
Yeah.
Now that the world's opening up. We'll see you around.
I'd love that.
Stay well.
great
Talk
day.
to you soon.
See ya. Bye.